What are pit bulls like? You know, the dog. What are they like? What's their common characteristic? Or let me phrase it. What's their stereotype? Well, pit bulls are considered to be very aggressive. They are considered to be dogs that have been bred to fight. That's the origin of it. So as I understand, I could be wrong, but it doesn't matter. Pit bulls have certain stereotypical behaviors that are very, very different from, say, Labradors. Labradors are very easygoing dogs. Anybody who's had a dog knows this. Labradors are just easygoing, calm, relaxed, great with kids. They never act impulsively, unlike pit bulls. Pit bulls act impulsively. Often they attack impulsively, and pit bulls love to attack. They love to bite stuff and hold on to it. They just love it. You know, you take a pit bull and you give him a rag and he'll bite it. You grab that rag's other end and you start swinging the dog around and he's gonna love it. He's gonna be on cloud 9. I've seen it. Pit bulls love to bite. They love that feeling of their teeth being yanked out of their jaws. They love it. That's why they're great fighting dogs, attack dogs, guard dogs. Whereas, for instance, Chihuahuas are not. Chihuahuas aren't, you know, attack dogs. Chihuahuas are these little rat-like dogs. I personally hate them. And what are they? They're just these little rat dogs that bark and yap, 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 yap all day long, right? They're just annoying. Right? They don't fight, you know, at the first sign of trouble, they flee, of course, because they're small. You know, they're just annoying. And then you have other dogs, like, say, St. Bernards. Chihuahuas and St. Bernards are the same species. You can cross a Chihuahua and a St. Bernard. I don't know why you would want to, but that's a different story. The issue is you can do so. They are the same species, but they are radically different breeds. Chihuahuas, Labradors, Pit Bulls, St. Bernards, they are all the same species. They can all reproduce with one another, but they are all radically different breeds. Radically different breeds with radically different temperaments, radically different looks, radically different attitudes towards children, towards strangers, towards people, whatnot. See, the different breeds, it's not just a looks thing. It's also a brain thing. And this is something that our current culture really doesn't like talking about, but we should. We should definitely talk about it. Because, see, different breeds takes relatively few generations to achieve. I mean, how many thousands of years do you think it took to create the Chihuahua? You think it took 1,000 years, 2,000 years? No, it took about like 150 years. Yeah, that's it. It was just a few short generations. Now, of course, dogs have shorter lifespans than human beings. Dogs are fertile and able to have a litter of puppies at a much younger age than, say, human females, right? But the truth remains, the issue remains, that different breeds separated in just a few generations. You know, 10 generations, which is not much. In human terms, 10 generations is 25 years. In dog terms, 10 generations is like 50 years. And there are lots of breeds of dogs that have emerged over the last 50 years. Lurchers, for instance. See, these dogs that are different breeds, you know, accredited by the American Kennel Association or the European Kennel Association or wherever the hell, right? See, these are very different breeds and they look different and they act different. And what is key is to understand that the superficial differences insofar as the looks of a dog translate to their heads as well. Yes, of course, because, see, all breeds, their different breedings translate to all of the different parts of a dog's anatomy, okay? Their bones, of course, some are bigger than others, St. Bernard versus Chihuahua again. Their hips, for instance, German Shepherds have hip dysplasia, malformation of the hips. The hips are too small for their weight, and that's why they suffer terribly in old age. And different dogs can handle different things better. Some are much better at sniffing things, like bloodhounds. They can sniff things that other dogs, like German Shepherds or St. Bernards, cannot smell. They are all different, and that translates to their head as well. Dalmatians, beautiful dogs, beautiful animals, you know, white with black spots. You ever dealt with a Dalmatian? Because I have. Dalmatians are stupid and hysterical, without exception. I've dealt with a lot of Dalmatians because I've dealt with a lot of dogs in general. I love dogs. Dalmatians are all, without exception, hysterical and stupid as all get out. Whereas German Shepherds, Labradors are calm and steady, and they're smart as a whip. But that's, of course, the stereotype. And what's a stereotype? It's an inference. It's an inductive inference. And what is an inductive inference? Well, it's an inference that flows from the premises. That is, enough iterations of something has popped up that you can comfortably predict that the next iteration that arises will likely be like that. Most of the Dalmatians, might as well say the Dalmatians, most of the Dalmatians that I've dealt with, they're hysterical and stupid. Most of them. If I see a new Dalmatian, I will think, it'll probably be hysterical and stupid. If it's not, yay, it's a smart, calm Dalmatian. That would be great. But most of the time, without seeing it, without getting to know it properly, just by looking at it, I'll say, oh yeah, this Dalmatian is probably going to be hysterical and stupid. Because that's the nature of stereotypes. They don't arise out of the fucking thin air. No, they are for a reason. You see them. You see them, you see enough iterations of something, and you say, oh yeah, the next one is probably going to be similar to all the previous ones I've seen before. Now, you deal with dogs, you have to be aware of the different stereotypes. You come across a pit bull, for instance, you got to know that that dog is potentially very aggressive and very dangerous. You might never have interacted with that dog, with that specific dog, but knowing that all the other ones that you've dealt with, knowing that people who have dealt with animals, dealt with dogs, a lot of dogs, can tell you that pit bulls tend to be like this, well, then you have to be careful with the next iteration. You have to be open-minded, because it could be that this pit bull that you come across is not aggressive, hyper-aggressive, is not, does indeed have impulse control, unlike most other pit bulls who have zero impulse control. It could be that this pit bull is as calm and relaxed and happy as a Labrador. It could be, very well. So you have to keep an open mind. But at the same time, you cannot reject stereotypes, because quite frankly, it would be irresponsible. Simple as that. See, if every time you have dealt with a pit bull, they've turned out to be very aggressive with very little impulse control and a pronounced desire to bite things and rip things apart with their jaws, their very powerful jaws and their very powerful teeth. Well, if you have seen that every single time, it would be the height of a responsibility for you to bring a small child into the presence of a pit bull that you have no experience with. Now, wouldn't it? It would be insane, because that pit bull might well do absolutely nothing to that small child, or well decide to use him as a rag doll and a chew toy at that. Yeah. How'd you like to have a 4-year-old kid's brains spread out all over the place? Would you like that? Probably not. And see, you see my point. You have to be open-minded to the next exemplar of whatever classification, whatever it is, but at the same time you have to be on your guard, knowing about a stereotype. You cannot afford to ignore stereotypes, because different breeds of dogs create different temperaments. Different breeds of dogs have different approaches to life, as it were. Different breeds of dogs act in different ways. Not all of them, but most of them. That's why there are stereotypes, because they are valid, because those inductive inferences, there are enough iterations. So when you are dealing with a new breed, don't ignore stereotypes. That's the height of irresponsibility. You have to be perfectly aware of the stereotype. The Labrador, the Golden Retriever, the Pit Bull, the Chihuahua, the Saint Bernard. You have to know what those stereotypes are. You have to be open-minded with the new example of that particular breed, but you have to know, and you have to be on your guard. And the second that individual starts living up to its stereotype, you have to be prepared. Stereotypes are our friends. Stereotypes help us manage the world. Stereotypes, what are it? It's just building on our experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. On the contrary, you ought to build on your experience. And you ought to pay particularly close attention to your experience to see if it conforms to other people's experiences. Because it could be that the general population says, oh, St. Bernards are like this. They're evil, they attack children and they're really bad. But you deal with St. Bernards and it turns out that no, they're really easygoing dogs. They never attack kids. On the contrary, they love to play with kids. They're really relaxed. They're great dogs. And so you realize that the popular stereotype is totally wrong because your own experience has taught you X. You see? You should do that. You should not be automatically swayed by what other people are saying. But at the same time, you should never ignore what other people are saying. Because often as not, in this example, I said that, the general consensus, might be the stereotype of St. Bernards is that they're very aggressive and blah, 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 which is of course not true. But see, most of the time, the popular stereotype is going to be right. And that's something that bothers a lot of people. Yeah, it's going to be right because what happens is that, see, this person experiences a certain attitude of St. Bernards, and then this other person experiences roughly the same behavior in a different St. Bernard, and then another and another and another and another until it hits you, and then you realize, yeah, all these other people had a certain experience with St. Bernards, and you're dealing with a new St. Bernard, totally different from all the others that other people had dealt with, and it's more or less the same thing, see? So you can't dismiss stereotypes because they are so often as not true. There are exceptions, yes, but don't ignore stereotypes. You ignore them at your peril. And understand too, see, what we want to understand is the future. That's why we make stereotypes. Yeah, because things are coming at us from the future. We live here in the present, and behind us is the past, and the future is coming at us. New people, new situations, new experiences, whatever. And all of this new stuff that is coming at us at the speed of life, well, all of this stuff, we have to handle it. Sometimes we have to handle it with both hands. Sometimes it's exceedingly dangerous and exceedingly important. And so we have to be aware of stereotypes so that we can gain from other people's experience, people in the past. People in the past might have said something about something going on, about a particular breed of dog or whatnot. We've got to be aware of it, because if we come across that same dog, we're going to know how to handle it. See? That's why we need stereotypes, because the future is coming at us. And we do not have the time sometimes to figure everything out. Sometimes we just need a quick handle. And that's what stereotypes are for. Consider the pit bull. The pit bull is a kind of dog that most everybody will say that whenever they have dealt with a pit bull, they've been a little nervous because they are happy dogs, high energy dogs, but all of a sudden their mood can change just like that. And they can be going from being a happy dog, a playful dog that just wants to fool around and roll around, until all of a sudden, and for no reason whatsoever, the dog attacks and tries to bite your face. Yeah, kill you. For no reason whatsoever. You got to understand what's going on. It's the nature of the pit bull. The different breeds have different temperaments. It's not just the different coats. It's not just the different sizes. It's the different brains. The brains are different. And so you have to understand what's going on. Know your stereotypes. Know so that when you deal with a pit bull, you know what might happen. And you have a good time with the dog, but when that look crosses its eye and it just flips out on you, you'll be prepared.